This past week, Bungie reintroduced the DFA hand cannon from year one back into the Grandmaster Nightfall loot rotation as the newest adept hand cannon on the table for players to farm. And I most definitely did farm this thing. I acquired no fewer than a dozen DFAs, and I took about half of those into PvP to get a feel for the weapon and the various perk combinations available. And during that time, I found some secret sauce combos that really work well on this weapon, leading to a lot of buttery smooth 3-taps in the background gameplay here. And at the end of the video, I'm going to recommend an unorthodox glass cannon roll that can lead to some of the most effortlessly easy 3-taps that you'll ever have with a hand cannon, I promise. I'm going to talk to you about what's desirable on this weapon, what perks you really are going to want to look out for, and what exactly makes it unique compared to other similar hand cannons, because we have a lot of popular kinetic 140 hand cannons in the game already. So before we dive into that, let me take a couple of minutes to thank the sponsor of today's video who generously funded my time spent grinding. It's Raid Shadow Legends. Today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. There are only a handful of absolutes in this world. The sun rises in the east, gravity keeps our feet on the ground, and Raid Shadow Legends is a part of our lives now, and it's going to stay that way for a long time because this game just keeps on growing and expanding and adding new champions, bringing a console-level video game right to your phone. With over 600 champions and hundreds of artifacts to hunt down and equip, the freedom to customize and create a team that speaks to you has never been greater. Here's the thing, my life is a little chaotic right now. I've got 2 kids, a high maintenance dog, a home addition being built, and summertime with extended family on the calendar. But what I love about Raid is that I can literally pop it in and out of this game throughout the day as I check my character leveling in the Guardian Ring, or see where I stack up in the current events and tournaments. But one of my favorite things to do is set up a team for a specific dungeon and fine-tune the team so I know they can handle the dungeon on their own, and then slide the phone out of my pocket, load up the dungeon with the right team, and set it to autoplay so that I can, pour a drink for my wife, shake my father-in-law's hand, toss a football with my nephew, and all the while I know that Sir Nicholas and his team of babes are smashing that ice golem and getting me some fat loot. You can even tell the game to go ahead and run the dungeon 10 times in a row if you want, and then when you check back in several minutes later, it'll show you how many runs were successful and what loot you obtained. This game was literally designed specifically for people like me who have active lifestyles but want to squeeze in some meaningful gaming on the go. This month is wild in Raid. They're busting out 5 new champions for us to collect. They're overhauling the champion vault while simultaneously running a series of summer events where you can score some great new skins for Trunda, a community favorite dwarf champion. The d.f.a chase event is still running, and you've got time to get her unlocked too, just by logging in for 7 days between now and the 28th, and you'll snag this top shelf support champ to bolster your team. And if you're new to Raid, hey, make sure you use the promo code MyDeliana in-game to get 50 experience brews to level up your Deliana quickly and get her right into the fight, as well as a bunch of silver too. So there's never been a better time to dive into Raid, so click the link in the description or scan the QR code here for convenience. You'll snag $30 worth of unique bonuses, including a free epic champion Ina, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill, and an XP boost, as well as an ancient shard to roll the dice on summoning a random champion to add to your team. All this treasure will be waiting for you right here in your inbox. Good luck out there. Let's get back to Destiny. Alright, so let's chat about this gun. This one originally dropped as a strike-specific weapon back in the Curse of Osiris DLC, and it was highly desirable back then. It was a solid 140 hand cannon with opening shot or rampage. You could pick one or the other. Opening shot, it made it a must-have for PvP lovers at the time, and yeah, there were a few of us in the game still. So I'm glad that the weapon made a comeback, since many folks weren't actively playing Destiny back then during the dark ages of D2. And the original perks are still in the perk pool for it today. So if you can have an authentic DFA experience. I put a little over 2,400 kills on mine back then, so I had a pretty good relationship with it. Actually, sound off in the comment section if you actually farmed for one of the original DFAs back in year 1 of D2. I'd be interested to see how many people actually got their hands on this thing way back then. But let me hit you with some bad news up front, and then we'll bring it around, I promise, with some good news that I think offsets the bad news about DFA. The bad news is that when you compare this kinetic 140 hand cannon to, say, the Ayaz Luna, we'll just pick one of the popular kinetic 140s that already exist. We'll use the Eyes Luna as a measuring stick here. You'll see that the DFA has lower base range, lower base stability, lower base handling, lower base aim assist, and slightly worse recoil and a smaller mag size. So I know that's the bad news. That's a tough pill to swallow. And Eyes Luna can even get, rangefinder to bump up its range and zoom value. But let's offset that with some good news. The DFA, it does have the benefit of being an adept weapon, so it can get the +2 stat boost to all the stats when you fully masterwork it, which does help that small gap between the base stats of this and those of its competitors, because it's not like it's catastrophically lower in those categories. It's just lower a little bit, so that'll help offset that difference right off the rip. It also has the benefit of taking adept mods, which have massive stat boosts as well. And finally, it has a perk pool with banger perks for both PvE and PvP. In the first column, it has perpetual motion, triple tap, outlaw, fragile focus, steady hands, and tunnel vision. For PvP, your top 3 picks are going to be perpetual motion, tunnel vision, and fragile focus. Outlaw is totally acceptable. I put over 100 kills on an outlaw rampage roll this week as well, so it feels just fine. But having tried all the other perks too, I can say definitively that perpetual motion and fragile focus are the 2 that felt the best. So perpetual motion is S tier. I mean, there's no way around it. We all know this at this point. The massive free buffs that you get from this perk are just too good to pass up, Plus 15 stability, handling, reload speed. And that means that my roll that has perpetual motion and rampage on it, it basically ends up with having 79 stability, 60 handling, 65 reload speed. In summation, perpetual motion, very good, highly recommend. Okay. Other than that, I actually really like the risk and reward of fragile focus. I know it's not totally caught on yet. And before people come in with that criticism, oh, fragile focus sucks, it goes away the second that you get shot. Timeout. Let me ask you, how long have we openly accepted opening shot as a top shelf perk? I mean, it's nothing new for us to value a perk that gives a massive buff for just a portion of your duel. Not only that, but fragile focus, it has the capacity to actually be active for the entirety of your duel. If you get a flank, if they're missing their shots. So some of the gameplay in the background has me 3-tapping people with fragile focus up at ranges I would typically be experiencing damage drop-off and not able to land a 3-tap. It would take 4 or 5 shots. And I'm doing it in 3 before they have a chance to react to my presence. But one of the things that you'll also see is, the moment that I take damage sometimes when I'm using that gun, sometimes the moment I take damage, you'll see my output go from 70 to the head down to something in the 50s. And that sort of illustrates, it's sort of concrete evidence. Like, for example, there's a duel, I'll try to time it so that you're looking at it right now, but there's a duel on Exodus Blue where I'm on the B flag, dueling somebody who's behind the pillar out towards the seaside door. And at that range, I would typically be experiencing damage drop-off. My opening shot with Fragile Focus active lands for the full damage amount. But the second I take damage, it drops down to the 50s. And that sort of is just a concrete reminder of just how much extra range you're getting with this perk. So when it's working, hey, it is really, really working. That extra reach that you get is very noticeable on Destiny maps specifically. You couple that with opening shot, and you've got yourself a range monster. I loved it. I mean, you can hold a lane and get some really big chunk damage into someone right as they enter it, or you go on a flanking route, and you're going to be doing things that a standard 140 just simply cannot do. So if you want the safe roll, go with Perpetual Motion in this slot. But if you want to try something new on a hand cannon and reach D1 hand cannon ranges with some built-in risk, hey, go with Fragile Focus. And second slot, we touched on a little bit, but in the second column, you've got Timed Payload, Rampage, Vorpal Weapon, Wellspring, Opening Shot, and Focused Fury. There are 3 that stand out for me for PvP in this slot: Timed Payload, Rampage, and Opening Shot. Timed payload is very interesting, and there's something that you may have forgotten about this perk because we haven't been using it in several seasons, really. Timed payload, it splits the damage of your shot. 45% of that damage lands up front like your standard kinetic damage would, but the other 55% of the damage that lands, it lands a fraction of a second later after that initial impact, and that damage registers as explosive damage. And here's the kicker, it does not have any damage drop off. So I repeat, that damage is immune to damage drop off at range. In other words, this hand cannon can hit from way downtown. If you hit the shot, 55% of that damage is guaranteed full damage. The other 45% will experience that damage drop off, but you can start tagging people up from way deeper than you can with anything else. I had a lot of fun playing around with the timed payload roll, but the only drawback for me was that mine also rolled with Outlaw, which doesn't work with timed payload because the explosive damage doesn't register as precision damage, so it will tank your headshot percentage with hand cannons. Just bear that in mind if that matters to you, because it'll count it as explosive body shot damage instead. Moving on, you've also got Rampage, and you're going to see a lot of Rampage kills in this video because I put in a couple hundred kills on my 2 Rampage rolls this week. What I like about Rampage is the kill chaining potential. With just 1 stack of Rampage active, you're going to be going into your next duel only needing 2 headshots and 1 body shot instead of the normal 3 to the head. So there's some built-in forgiveness there, which is great for 6s. You'll see a lot of 3 taps in this gameplay that's on guy number 2, where I go 2 to the head, 1 to the body. So it's nice to have that forgiveness. If you're looking for a 3v3 or Trials DFA, I don't recommend Rampage. It's more for 6s. I would recommend Opening Shot instead. Opening Shot is going to give you plus 20 aim assist and plus 25 range on that first shot of your duel. Basically, that means that if your aim is decent, then that first headshot is a gimme. You know, and when you only need 3 to drop somebody, that's a big deal, having a freebie on that first shot. And it does feel free. I mean, there's times where I just snap to the target, pull the trigger, and it's like, yep, that's a headshot. That opening shot roll is a little bit nutty. So, all in all, what does the DFA have going for it? It's got some banger options to give this weapon some way downtown reach between Fragile Focus, Opening Shot, and Timed Payload. If I could select every perk on this weapon, then this is the one that I'd end up with, I think. I'd do Corkscrew Rifling, Accurized Rounds, Perpetual Motion, Opening Shot, a Range Masterwork, and an Adept Stability mod. That's going to net you a hand cannon that balances out some really solid consistency with the base stats amped up and Perpetual Motion on top, and then Opening Shot that will let you capitalize on its potential reach as well, bumping that range up to 95 on that first shot. That's the #1 best roll that I think I would recommend to you. It's the safe roll. But then I'm also going to recommend a fun glass cannon roll that I think has the potential to really just double down on that high risk, high reward potential for this gun. If you go with Fragile Focus and Opening Shot, you're going to sometimes be hitting at capped ranges, 100 range, right? With massive aim assist buffs and accuracy cone buffs. If you get that drop on people, if you go on a flanking route, you know, for folks who play a lot of Trials, you know, that's a big deal. You have somebody that goes on that flank while your teammates hold the aggro, you're going to be absolutely deleting people with this thing. It means you have to play like a glass cannon, though, so you would have to be mindful of your approaches, but I can say that after playing around a bunch with my Fragile Focus Opening Shot combo, I fell in love with it. The buttery smooth 3 taps that felt just effortless were so dang satisfying. You really do have to try it, trust me. Thanks for watching the video today, folks. I appreciate your support. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, would you consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing for additional Destiny 2 content? If you're already subscribed, then thank you so much for choosing to support my content and the growth of my channel directly. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.